Greetings everyone, this is Tanya at I Love Iodine. This week's video is on docks. We're going to be talking about yellow dock and broadleaf dock, but before we get started, a disclaimer. I am not responsible for any injuries or illnesses that result from your actions. You are responsible to do your own research and most importantly use your common sense. This information is brought to you solely as an educational guide with the best of intentions. It is imperative to always properly identify a plant as safe before you even touch it, let alone consume it. Use this information along with quality field guides, other reliable sources, and or a knowledgeable forager to assist you. Okay, so we're talking about two different types of docks out here. We're not talking about burdock. That's a completely different plant and a completely different family. Please see my video on that. It's an awesome plant, but this is a different genus and a different family. We're talking about biennials. I have seen this listed as perennial in other publications. I've observed it as a biennial, so you can do your research on that a little bit deeper. But we're going to talk about curly, also known as yellow dock. So you might see it if you go to a store and see a tea or a tincture, as it's going to be listed commonly as yellow dock. Versus curly, it gets the name curly because the leaves are wavy at the margins, as you can see in this illustration on the left-hand side. Broadleaf dock is named such because the leaves are broad, and hence its name. Now, these are the genus Rumex. It's Rumex crispus for the yellow dock and Rumex obtusifolius for the broadleaf dock. It's in the Smartweed-Buckwheat family, also commonly called the Knotweed family. It's Polygonaceae. So you may see it listed in different publications as any of those, Smartweed, Buckwheat, Knotweed, sometimes in combination, sometimes not. Again, these are both introduced, so they are not native to the United States, but they are very common, especially in the Mid-Atlantic states and eastern United States. As you can see here, they're also up into Canada. Yellow dock appears to be more widely distributed. There's also different types of docks throughout the United States. There's a western dock as well that you might encounter that's going to look very similar, but obviously it is different. And there's also another plant in this family called sheep sorrel that's actually in this genus as well, highly medicinal. I urge you to check into that one as well. We're not going to cover that in this one, but it is a really awesome plant if you can find it. So you might see something that looks similar but isn't quite it, and it's sheep sorrel. So on the left hand side, we are looking at the first year docks. We're looking at that kind of that basal rosette growing low to the ground. On the left hand side, you get some examples of the curly dock. See those wavy margins on those leaves. And then we have some broadleaf dock on the right hand side. Very common to see red in that broadleaf dock. Not so common in the curly dock. Not saying it won't happen, because there's exceptions to everything in this life. Depending on where things are grown, can have quite an impact on how it actually looks. So on the left-hand side, you get some second-year pictures of the yellow dock and the broadleaf dock. As you can see, it's going into the flowering and the fruiting, and then it will be going into the seed production. It will bolt up. No longer be a basal rosette on the ground in the second year. Now, if we are going to be collecting the root, we're going to talk about the best time to do that. We'll just do that now. You want it at the end of that first year. So let's go back and see what that rosette looks like of that yellow dock. So we would want to wait until that first hard frost came in, and we would want to dig that root up about a week after that occurred, because we want all that energy from the leaves. It's collecting all the energy from the sun, doing all of its, chemical changes. And when we want that to go back down to the root, because the root is the storage for all the nutrients and all the energy and all the starches and all the energy, and it's going to store it up and save it until next spring whenever it comes out, and it's going to take all that energy that it has stored up in the root, and it's going to transfer it into its growth and then into its seed production. So we want to get the maximum energy, maximum nutrition. That's going to be at the end of that first year. When it gets to this stage here of the second year, not much benefit to getting these roots, and that's for edible purposes or for medicine. That goes for most biennials, pretty much all of them, whether that's carrots, whether that's burdock, the list goes on and on. Once it bolts and it goes to seed, pretty much that root is tasteless, rough, tough, not really edible, and it's not going to have the nutrients and the medicinal chemical compounds that we desire. And this just shows some other of the seeds. So we see with the curly dock, we see more of those greenish fruits and things like that, and we see those wavy margins. Now, both of these are going to get in the second year 1 to 5 feet. One is if it got mowed down, and the first year basically is going to be the rosette about a foot. but it's going to go up the first 5 feet in the second year. It's commonly about, I would say 3.5 feet is probably a good average. Of course, there's a variability there, just like there's height variability in us humans. The leaves are going to be lamp-shaped for both. Of course, they're going to be wider for the broadleaf. And the importance of doing these together is because they look so similar, especially when they go into seeds, that we really want, for medicinal purposes, especially for anti-parasitic, detoxification, dealing with fungal infections, we want to be going after the yellow dock. The broadleaf dock, medicinally, we just call it, doesn't really have anything. None that's listed. So we want to be making sure that we can make the distinction, because we don't really want to waste our time digging up the roots of the broadleaf dock unless it's a desperate situation and we're hungry. Then of course we'll talk about that, but we really do want the yellow dock for its medicinal benefits. Now it's going to have those flowers of greens on the spikes as we see here, and they're going to be winged heart-shaped seeds, as you can see. And those are going to happen June through September. Of course, they're going to turn to that characteristic rusty brown, reddish brown, however you want to call it. And how we can tell the yellow dock too with the root, when we cut it, it is going to have a yellow in the cross section. That's how it got its name. And as we see some of the fruits here, so we got some on the left-hand side of the curly dock, and the ones that are red are probably from a broadleaf dock. How it usually goes. And now this is the seeds as they have ripened. On the left-hand side, you see my hand, and you see the seeds that were collected. And unfortunately, I didn't use those. I actually dropped those on the ground and swept them up and had to take them outside, which is probably why I have so much broadleaf dock in my yard now. But that's that, and that's a whole another story. I was trying to eat them to not spread the seed, and then, I don't know, they ended up outside the compost. So it is what it is. As we see those characteristic brown stalks, we're going to see some more pictures of those, and we're going to go outside after this and see what it looks like mid-September, mid-Atlantic states, and see what it looks like about right now. So the parts we're going to use this is the leaves, the roots, and the seeds. And again, we talked about the size being 1 to 5 feet. Even though in some publications they call it perennial, I'm going to stick with biennial. You can go with whatever you want, I suppose, but I'm going to stick with that because that's how I see it. Edible uses, the leaves, spring and the new leaves through midsummer. That's what you want. You don't want to go when they're all dry and you know, just not really that edible. So you can steam them, saute them, and make a green out of it. That or pot herb, it's preferred over the raw because this, like a lot of other plants, are high in oxalic acid. That is not very good for us to have in high concentrations. Of course, we do get it from eating spinach, beet greens, and things of that nature, but don't get too much of it because that can actually bind with your calcium. That can actually cause, kidney stones and other things like that to form. We don't want that. Okay, so be mindful of that. So the fresh leaves are best because it dries out fast and it gets just really not palatable. So if eating raw, it's best to combine with onions and lemon juice. Again, that helps deal with the acid as well. The seeds, which you saw, you can dry and ground them as a high fiber flour extender. That's like in times of need, basically, maybe next year, I guess. Hopefully not, but things look a little bit, up in the air, a little more unsettled, as time goes on sometimes. But, it's always good to learn your survival skills, make sure that you are well prepared for different situations, whether it's at your home or in your car or at your workplace. Make sure you do have necessary supplies, okay? Anyway, back to the medicinal uses. The leaves, you can make a poultice out of it. That's going to help soothe burns, blisters, and nettle stings. There's a lot of other plants we can use as well. It's good to know a wide range of them because you might not have the other one around. So it's good to know a lot. The roots, especially the curly, really, there obviously is some nutrients and, I'm sure some medicinal actions of the other roots in this genus, but really we're talking the curly, also known as the yellow dock here. It's going to be high in calcium and iron. It's going to help with anemia. It's going to be high in magnesium and phosphorus. The roots, again, the curly dock. It's going to be cleansing and tonifying the gallbladder and liver. It's going to be calming, diuretic. It's going to help with menstrual issues. How? I have absolutely no idea. That's what they say. I definitely know it's good for detoxification. Also, it can help with ringworm and fungal issues as well. And they say it can increase your fertility. Now, that could be because it's strengthening your body. If it's tonifying your body and giving you nutrients, your things like that, your body's going to be stronger and it's going to function properly like it's supposed to. The curly dock, with its detoxification benefits, pairs well with red clover, dandelion, and or burdock. And I'm going to read the information from the Peterson's medicinal book on it. It says, herbalists considered dried root tea an excellent blood purifier. It's used to treat, quote, bad blood, end quote, chronic skin diseases, chronic enlarged lymph glands, skin sores, rheumatism, that's like joint pains and things of that nature. Think about arthritis and that. Liver ailments, sore throats. May cause or relieve diarrhea. And you might think, my gosh, what are you talking about? It can do one or the other. It's going to depend on when you're getting that root. Because at different times of harvest, it's going to be high in compounds known as anthraquinones, I think is how it's pronounced, and they're going to have a laxative effect. If you get them at other times, the root is going to be high in tannins. Tannins are astringent. That is going to help with your diarrhea, or if you don't have diarrhea, it's going to make you not go to the restroom. So we know how the one that has a laxative effect, the anthraquinones, can arrest growth of ringworm. Ringworm is like it's not a like parasite in that way. It's a skin issue, but it makes a ring that looks like a worm, but it's a fungi. So it's a fungal infection. So keep those things in mind. Large doses may cause gastric disturbance, nausea, and diarrhea. So it's very important to know the contraindications as well and the different medicinal actions. So this one is definitely good for blood purification and cleansing the gallbladder, the liver. And we really need those things. And we can do it different ways. We can either get that dried root tea, we can powder that, or we can make, just slice the dried root up and make a decoction out of it. Another way, if you're familiar with how to make tinctures, Yellow Dock does really well with the alcohol extract. So that's a very good medicinal way to do it. If you're unfamiliar with how to make tinctures, I do have a video on my other channel. You can see the link down in the description of that channel and check that out. I do have a PDF available. If anybody's interested, just contact me in my comments and I'll make that available. It is not available, I don't think, at this present moment anywhere that I'm aware of. It could be on my website, but I don't exactly know where. But if you do want it and that would be helpful for you, please let me know. We're going to go outside, check this plant out, see what it looks like in mid-September in the Mid-Atlantic states. Also, if you haven't liked or subscribed, I would appreciate it if you did. We're really trying to get some information out there to help people learn about the plants that are around, how they can use it, how we can deal with parasitic infections and fungal infections cheaply and effectively. I mean, it's great to be able to go to the store and buy everything that you need, but I'm going to tell you, if you can go out there and get the Yellow Dock yourself, you're going to have a fresher product. You can actually get closer to the land, and I think you'll be able to learn a lot more about how these plants work for you by getting a little bit closer to them and understanding their life cycle. I mean, we have to understand, like, things have been sitting on a shelf for who knows how long. It could be a very long time. And while, dried herbs, they do have a tendency to not last, long, depending on how they're stored. We also know that there's been some issues with certain places, putting in other things. You don't really know necessarily what you're getting unless you know the company that you're getting it from. And there's a lot of good companies out there for sure. I do recommend using an alcohol-based extract, a tincture, because this Yellow Dock, the root, does, a lot of the medicinal compounds that we need actually is very well extracted, very alcohol soluble. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on outside and see what we have going on out there. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I really do appreciate it. And let's see what we can see outside. Now we're outside. Forgive this air conditioner that's going on behind me. I can't help that. But what we're looking at here, that's growing near my compost, this huge specimen, the first year curly dock. This is absolutely huge. So this is going to have a really beautiful root for medicine. And when we looked at the picture, you saw some of the first year is pretty kind of small. Well, look how big this is. I mean, this is absolutely just insane.
There might actually be a few of them growing here, and no, maybe just one. Too bad. If there were two, I would leave one, because this is going to be like a great one to, you know, collect seeds from and then spread it. So that's kind of puts me in a situation. Do I let this go till next year, collect the seeds, and then have from a really great solid specimen? I will have to think on that, actually, because that's a really great one, and that's what we want to do, is we want to get strong seeds from our plants. And I know it's growing in a safe location, it's growing in my yard. Anyway, there's your first year. So we're going to go check it out, and we're going to find some second year. Well, we didn't have to go too far, just went on the other side of the house here, and this is some broadleaf dock that's growing. I tried to take some of it out because I really don't want all of this growing, because I really do want the yellow dock. So again, still on the fence on what I'm going to do about that root. That would make great medicine, which I could use, or probably make really strong seeds too. So I don't know. I'll think on that. If anybody has any thoughts, please let me know, and we'll go from there. I have a few months to decide, I suppose. Anyway, we have these characteristic rusty brown stalks as we would see at this time. Here we saw that last picture where they go to seed. I'm actually going to pull some of these seeds up so they don't completely spread. But this over here, things don't grow as well because this is very shady. This is the opposing side. But I did get a nice burdock over there, and I have a nice burdock root as well to get. But this just shows what it looks like here. This is not the best burdock going to seed here, but we'll keep that. And of course we have some first year carrots growing through here. I don't really eat carrots that in the wild, but they're here if I needed them. And we have some violets and yellow sorrels and dandelions and another type of some sort of something in the goosefoot related amaranth family there, totally safe to eat. Of course we have some goldenrod. We have a probably butternut there as well. Thank you, squirrels. I'm gonna have to transplant some of these trees into different areas of my yard as soon as possible. Anyway, I hope that helped with your identification on that to see what the plants look like. I know we just spent time here. Here we have some of that broadleaf dock in the first year growing down there. Got some sulfur cinquefoil leaves there. I think those are so absolutely beautiful. And as you can see, since the leaves are dying down here, because this is already going to seed, everything will be dying back. And that little rosette there, that's an evening primrose. You can eat that root as well. So anyway, I hope that helps with the identification. Peace and love, everyone. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be kind to animals, and be kind to nature.